It is 5:01.
All right, knock, knock. It is Monday. It is April 17th, 2023, 5 p.m. This is a special call meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's like all commissioners are present. I would ask anybody that can stand. I'll lead us in a quick prayer, and Matthew will lead us in a quick pledge. God, we thank you again for this opportunity that we get to serve this city and enjoy the things that she has to offer. Please help us to make good, informed decisions. Help us to make decisions in the best interest of the city, not the individuals. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first order, just if you have your cell phones, watches, anything that beeps, if y'all can kind of get that quiet for us so as to not distract the other members. I would like to ask if I could get a motion to enter a closed session to determine whether or not to declare an executive session. We've got a motion, Matthew.
Second.
Second by, we'll go with Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. All right, are we going to the second board conference there?
Yeah, let's go.
Short tonight? Oh, yeah. I can make baseball by 7:30.
Good, how are you?
Still here.
Which one do you have?
My son is, they go to school at St. James. I've got to go all the way back to Gulfport to play ball there tonight.
Oh, okay.
So we're on the run.
What game?
He is 8. So
Yeah, I gotta retire something,
Even though we moved over here, they just refuse to, they don't want to leave their school. So,
No, I don't.
I don't blame them.
It'll all change in a year or two.
It will.
They made a motion to go into executive session to discuss litigation and prospective litigation related to the Sands development.
Yes, I called it.
We still have to go and meet with Harris on your data reviews the other day. Did y'all make any headway?
Yeah. None whatsoever. I don't expect to win.
You finished.
No.
Winter replacements and all stuff you're doing for 6 months or a year, year and a half, whatever it's been.
Year and a half.
I know
Every day, they're out there today, driveway.
Well, I noticed when I rode by the other day on the water, I didn't see the scaffolding or anything. I was like,
It's really kind of an interesting time to have, you know, 3 or 4 people hang around the house when I get up in the morning.
They've been building an outdoor kitchen and pool house since October. I would have thought it would have taken 30, 60 days.
So when they do that,
I know all the brick masons by their first name. I know what kind of coffee they like now. I told them the other day that I was was not declaring them as dependent on my next tax return. I need to hurry up.
No. Well, it's interesting that those, y'all take so damn long.
These particular brick masons are really good, but I cannot understand. They only work till midnight. They work out 3 or 4 days a week because it always rains. It's one day.
We didn't need as much.
I mean, you get anything like these. 3.5 hours.
That's their whole day.
That's their whole day. They're done. They don't do anything for us. If it's sunny and beautiful, they go home and if it's anyway, call them rain and they still. It doesn't make much financial sense either because they get paid about 1,000, per metal rig. So, yeah, it's just, I would want to start early, work late, finish, get paid for all.
Use up a couple hot carriers.
Correct. Told me 2 trips back that y'all did pretty good. I think that was probably what was. Church. Unless you can go get some wire.
Well, I put a 25-meter on each turn, and at the next place I called it Spanish. I drove back and I went down, and I took her gas, caught 2 good-sized specks. I said, yeah, that's trash. Yeah, that's trash. I don't count them before, like,
Right.
bad luck, you count them,
Right, correct.
So then we got done with that fight, I said, oh, I just froze, maybe we don't freeze, there's no freezing fish. One night. Right. After. Cocktail hour is.
Next day.
That morning by then, it's never worked very good for us.
Cocktail
Cocktail hour goes.
Right. Y'all stay at, yeah. I would agree with you. Places for it too.
Yeah, we got back. We catch it.
I think I may have shared with you, Bob Meyer used to be president of Boston. He was of the medical, some of the.
I heard about it. We had no TV. We were in South Texas. I didn't see the TV. So 4 days. It was fantastic. I heard it was not a good game.
We had one line to each going to the ball first batter, just let's work out our records. Got the second batter out, and then the ball with those 2 bases loaded with 1 out, and then I finished. We didn't even close the pitches. I think that was 4.
We're usually the last few days.
I said, you gotta get it. He was shaking, man.
We're on some kind of out.
From North California.
Are we out of everybody in the rotation? Or didn't have somebody else that was better than that?
The guy was pitching very good. And all of a sudden, he lost the
Checker, but he shut them down on Friday night.
Alright,
So you got
something else to do?
so you got your left drug out.
Yeah, I had that one that was hanging. Will and I got it yesterday.
What's his name? He was people that.
I've been to Zoo. Once a month.
Billy got it. My wife is Julie Gresham. She's an attorney. I don't know if you know Julie. She works for Huntington Ingalls.
Okay.
She was with Brittany.
Yeah.
She's actually, I think, actually the person that recruited one of us.
She just got it actually. She was made chief counsel. Yeah.
We only all of it. One side on like that. We don't play some. You know, like you wait.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. Cannon was, he's like, he enjoyed baseball, and they rubbed the collarbone, and then he couldn't play for half the season, and he started retired.
No,
It's from the soccer, they're still active. But he worked for me, and
No.
they played, but then at least you're running baseball, you might get a
But
ball.
Julie was there, Taylor McHale, associate.
Oh, I go, Ken. Good, how you? All right.
Since closed up. They're out.
yeah, I don't know.
They got post office.
Two or three times.
No.
I'm out all the time. I just not know she's running all the time. I mean, Sarah's a bad road.
Graduated from that.
Well, she finished up. She's working on a master's degree. And so we go over there, chance we get. I'm leaving about that time in the morning, so it's just kind of coming. I see Andrew sitting on the board, you know, I'm fast. Damn, Kurt, I don't know. I ain't talked to him and I don't know. He was talking to him to fly on the page. Then that wouldn't have been a conversation. Just about every house on the beach of that. Yeah. It's either had them or has them. And they, they tend to. I know it's one of those things you don't really want to do. You know, I mean, by the time you figure it out, it's probably too late anyway. But, they have 10 so many of those houses down there. Man, I work with him. He has a house. He builds. Look, did everything. You know, so it's an elevated concrete slab. Concrete, you know, 4 concrete columns to a slab and then build it up from there. And there's other trees on this property. Can't chop down. Yes. If one of those termites will do that. And they will find their own water source. And they can make their own water source from rain.
Montevallo.
They don't require
They're underground.
like traditional termites and that sort of thing. He noticed them and, going
I work with lots of gas.
third, fourth dormers that he picked on up there. And that's when he picked them up. By the time he picked them up, they were already down on the first floor. Yeah, not a good something. And those things are,
We got a nephew who graduated with honors.
you know, we had to go in there. It's basically not gut the house, but, you know, open up the side off the board. Just just never know. Might as well kill all the oak trees in your walls. I mean, they'll just devastate whatever they want.
This court has a house on Choice Works. Okay. Yeah.
Healthcare stuff, they agreed to it in the house. Unfortunately, they agreed.
Okay. Yes,
I mean, any judges,
I know, people, it scares people, it scares them, it really does. And then, people behind them, I don't even think that, when they do a home inspection, that they fully, they still turn up.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't surprise me what you said, if he didn't have a problem with it.
She made her opinion.
It's just common. Ben Cheaton's right next door. Ben said he was worried about, he got to his roof, so I was thinking, big deal. Yeah. Anyway, so what exciting going on? We don't ever talk.
I'm just thinking we have an annual manager.
You still there.
Prices have dropped. Yes, this sound system's going on there. It's pretty good.
I used to own that.
Did you really?
And I sold it to them.
Okay. Where our lodge was at one time, or service building.
Yeah.
That's a great.
I know I paid high last time.
It was a funny deal. I bought it from Pennsylvania. You remember the Ford?
Oh, really?
And had it 4 years ago, a comfortable ride in one hour.
Did you really?
Bad promotion.
Yeah, you go right there. Average out there on a few years, that didn't work out.
And I just want to tell you today, he said, don't do it today. That's the wrong.
So what was in Naples?
Let me talk to the chair. You guys can talk to him. And I'll meet you tomorrow morning at the schooner. My kids work this out.
Well, Daniel is a testament. Daniel's boat, he wrote the price there, it's got that freaking 34 solas.
Wow. I ain't been on, so I will.
It's a different house.
It's can't be a chest.
Yeah.
Thereafter,
Does that have on one side each
Rider.
like almost a little?
Okay.
finance is one. I told him earlier.
Yeah.
I told him first lot from doing total console, needs the money.
Well, at least that,
And so,
if it goes wrong, I mean,
if it falls,
you did it.
well, I want to buy that property.
It's not big.
Well, so, that's,
They want to buy this right.
there's lots of opportunities that are out
If
there.
you own the house in escrow,
If you're willing to travel and be around, it's just.
I gave him a deed, and he gave me money, it's sold.
I did not.
I've got a friend of mine that's
Beautiful property. Then it was
been doing travel law for years, and he
house
and
was moved.
trying to get me to go. They just call me like, the past 3 months, asked me if I go to Africa for a year. No.
Where's the cemetery?
Sure.
Right next to it.
Did you plan any of the?
I don't know, I mean, she might go, but I'm not going. I mean,
That may have happened after.
It may have happened.
It'd be all right, but then I'd have to do something else when I got back. You know, you have to, the next meeting is gonna be somewhere else. He just bounces all over. Literally, he stayed in states because he's just, you know, that's what he's trying to do.
And we planned some things that I,
He's got a family.
planning was not my jurisdiction.
Understand.
Well, you don't have to.
It's on that side going down.
Yeah. You just do it on
It's awesome drive there.
I got trips.
Yeah, one was Fred, Maureen, and the other.
Once if you want 10 minutes, 15 minutes cycle.
Like party side.
It starts starboard, goes to the middle, goes to corner, shuts itself off. I mean, I've got one, I've still got one. They're building a gate for you to walk on out, back of the paper bag. Remember to go back out there, that's like, you know, how we get started. I got one out there,
shallow.
footprints, gonna be something I'm gonna do start with. He said, here you go. And I said, so this is this. He goes, that's it, that's it. And I kept, you know, just because, you know, maybe.
Locally, not even.
Yeah, I've kept it. I've kept it all through the years, and it's something that, you know, I go back and it's just putting a file, and I'm like, you know, that's just crazy. That's how he was, you know. And he was very gentle, man. He was very gentle, you know, that, there was just not anything that I ever had to think or say of him that he was all the main house was kind and good to his word.
It's good that I did. No. That was owned by a lawyer in Jackson.
Right, burn more fuel to push on it.
Anyway, they owned it. Behind me, that's and I guess they owned it during Katrina and all of that.
There you go. All right, you was cooking then, weren't you? You was cooking then.
That whole area where the camellias are.
I can go slower and save, I'm getting about soccer rings. I can drive it.
Hey,
Good elevation. I can't remember what probably. I can probably build it.
Miles per hour, 'cause I didn't like to-
It's got good, it's got a good ride, but you know, you get a 24-foot elevation.
Way back.
And wind, you know.
You get more than 2 or 3 feet of water into your structure.
Well, so I think we're in.
200 gallons.
that's what you are. Exactly. I've never had one of those before, right? Or never that was super accurate. And I always get to reset it.
I reset every time. Yeah. That's the only way I know. But my gauge is ours. We use ours. So look in there and see.
You don't have to charge your fuel.
Yeah, correct.
And wind is well.
Usually so.
You're in velocity. It's just the outer velocity. Yeah.
I just got it in one hand. I made it.
I was gonna say, thanks so much.
I'm not gonna wait around. You can do that.
Hey, Alex Crusher.
I can't.
I'm only gonna bring a stick.
You know what's gonna happen with I, you'll have to take it apart.
I'll see y'all later.
All right. I don't blame you. I'll text you, give me.
Okay. Just my annual physical stuff, you know, where they run all your blood levels, and I had it come up on Monday. Oh, no. I screwed up on Saturday. We went to Florida on Sunday, and so I was like, I normally don't drink for like 10 days before. still want to have it on the delivery, on the ship. It's all clear. My problem is going to be like 10 beers the day before.
Yeah, but that's
It's going to pop up the bell and deliver that, like, actually the second time. Yeah, don't bring them in. It's just, going out there.
I was talking to a friend yesterday, was on the other side of the line, he's just talking about he's going to renovate his house.
Yeah, and I'm just like,
It's almost like he's going to more going on. They're about to sell that one day, they're going to have some money. They're going to be looking at it. I'm not going to
too old, just right. Yeah, so I hear you. I just didn't see like do it, but she tried. I tried, she's not drinking for a month.
Yeah. Just looking at the limitations, so you can put 39 units there. It's everything all over.
Oh, gracious. I'm gonna stall gingerly while one of the commissioners takes care of some urgent business. We are out of executive session. No action was taken. Did you say something, Amanda?
Was there a motion to come out of it?
A motion was made by Mike, I believe, and
Okay.
seconded by Marshall.
Thank you.
So while we do that, we can do some housekeeping items while we wait on Mike. In front of you, you would have gotten 2 letters, one from Billy Geis and one from Julia Lund. Do I have a motion to accept these into the minutes? So moved. Motion Kevin, second Marshall, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Those will be attached to the minutes, be part of the record on this. All right, moving down. Says approval of minutes. We don't have any minutes to approve, right?
No.
Okay. Skip item 2. No old business, so we'll skip item 3. And we will come down to new business, item 4A. These aren't listed on your agenda as so, but both of these will be handled with a more formal public hearing process. Item 4A is going to be a public hearing for an amendment to the UDC for the City of Ocean Springs, Mississippi, amending the following sections and chapters. Chapter 2 process, sections 224, conceptual plan, 225, preliminary development plan, 226, final development plan, and 227, site plans to establish processes, requirements, and criteria for plan unit development. So I have a motion to go into public hearing. Motion Mike, second Kevin, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are in public hearing. Wade, I assume you're going to tell us a little bit about this?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Got a slight, small, short PowerPoint presentation that I'll go through that kind of explain what PUD ordinance, PUD amendment will do. And just first of all, just want to say that PUDs are a tool. Basically, it combines variances to the UDC bulk regulations, like lot dimensions, building setback requirements, and so forth. Combines that with the subdivision regulations into a single application and development package that goes, instead of going to the Zoning Adjustment Board, going to the Planning Commission, then going to the Board of Aldermen, it would all be channeled through you as a Planning Commission to look at as a whole, and then on to the Board of Aldermen for their approval. So it's a much more efficient way of looking at developments. This kind of gives just a general indication of kind of how, like I said, with a residential development, what a PUD versus a conventional subdivision would look like. With the conventional, you've got more or less uniform lot sizes. You see there's no open space, no common open space. The lots go up to the stream that runs down the middle of the property. While with a PUD, you've got the ability to adapt to those natural features of the property. This one utilizes, because there's some streams and open space. In the situation of Ocean Springs, we have marshland, bayous, wetland area. All of those could be utilized as open space in a development, as opposed to the conventional way. This is just what I want to go over for the general objectives and the PUDs. Just to, like I said, this is more of a flexible approach to land development. Also, it gives you, the city, the opportunity for better environmental design in order to preserve some of the natural features of a piece of property. On the right side of the screen are some of the important considerations of PUDs. One is that it would be permitted in all zoning districts. Two, whatever the uses are in that zoning district would determine what is permitted in the PUD. This is not a situation where commercial uses can be permitted in a residential zoning district. Third, that whatever development regulations are in effect for the property in terms of lot sizes, building height, setbacks and such as that, would stay in place except as specifically amended by the outline plan, which would come to y'all. Also, there are provisions in the UDC already for some of the planned unit development PUD concepts, including the conservation subdivision, which is there on the graphic over there on the screen, and also the density bonus provision, which was utilized not too long ago for the subdivision on Hanshaw Road. So that there are provisions in the UDC for using PUD concepts. In the ordinance, the proposed ordinance, it divides the types of planned developments into residential, commercial, and mixed use. Specifically, these are the specific standards that you will find on the residential PUDs. They deal with common open space and amenities, also the overall density of the development in terms of number of dwelling units, and also requires that the interior street network, whether they're public streets, private drives, or driveways, have to be adequate for the development. In commercial PUDs, that they have requirements for the display of merchandise and the location of buildings and screening and landscaping from abutting residential property. Those aspects can be amended by the PUD to adapt to the specifics of the property, rather than just having a uniform requirement, which is what we have in the UDC right now. This is the approval process. Basically what is involved is a outline plan and then a final plan. With the outline plan, this is goes to you as a public hearing and also to the Board of Aldermen as a public hearing, which y'all would make a recommendation to the aldermen on how to approve or approve as modified the PUD. With the outline plan, you're setting the overall density limits of the development in terms of maximum number of lots and the location, also the access points, internal street network, and such as that. Also, the item number 4 is important in that it is up to the developer to list the exceptions and variances from the standard requirements that are being requested. If they are not requested and approved, then it goes to the standard requirements of the zoning district.
Wait, can I ask a quick
Yes,
question?
please.
The word variance is a bit of a throw off. We're not the BZA, but we would take the outline plan, and those variances would be adopted by us, not BZA, right?
Exactly. They would, instead of, as I said earlier, instead of going back and forth between the Zoning Adjustment Board and you, it all comes to you in terms of exceptions to the standard regulations.
Perfect. Just want to make sure.
Yes, that's exactly correct. Also, that whatever exceptions to the standard subdivision regulations would come into play with the outline plan too. As I said, there are both public hearings, both in front of the Planning Commission and the Board of Aldermen for the outline plan. And this same process applies to both residential and commercial developments. And then the final plan is similar to what y'all see as a preliminary plat for a subdivision, in that it gives the specific location, dimensions of lots, buildings, street network, access points, and such as that. Also, any kind of perimeter landscaping or common open space areas are detailed with the final plan. In the case of final plans, it's reviewed by the staff for conformance with the outline plan. Also, those findings are presented to you. Then the Planning Commission in a public session makes then a recommendation, not a public hearing, but just a regular hearing in front of you, makes a recommendation on the final plan. That then goes to the Board of Aldermen for final approval. Next stage would be the actual implementation and construction, which is the same as what the process we have right now in terms of building permits, development review, construction review, and so forth. Also, the proposed ordinance includes provisions for amendments to the PUD and for repeal of the PUD if that is felt to be necessary for whatever reason. And that concludes what I have to say about the planning and development. Glad to answer any questions you might have and go on to the next part of the agenda.
I got one more kind of hopefully softball question. How does this relate to like platting process? And I guess more so, where is this plan filed? How is it available? Does it show up on the zone map as a PUD? Does it show up on the plat that it was a planned unit development? How are we going to?
It would be really identical to at least the final plat would be identical to a subdivision final plat. It would be recorded in the registrar's office, land records office, that'd be available for everyone to look at. Also, it is typical for the outline plan to be recorded also, so that it is available for
with the county.
With the county, yes, sir. That's correct. With the county. Also, we would have to have some provisions. We could do this with our own GIS system, is to have that PUD outline plan designation indicated much like a zoning district is on our GIS maps, so that anyone looking at the zoning would see that there is a PUD there.
Other places, and that's what I was wondering.
Right.
Before we kind of have some
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else got anything for Wade? No? All right, so we are in a public hearing. We will call for both sides to speak. We are going to focus on the amendment as presented because there's probably some strong feelings here today. We will kind of open up the floor to have probably up to 10 minutes apiece. However, we are going to be pretty stringent on that 10 minutes. So we'll up the 3-minute usual, but we will ask you to be very mindful of the 10-minute mark if we get there. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Does anybody in the audience that is in favor we will start in support of the creation of basically a PUD district for the UDC. Name and address at the microphone, please.
Good afternoon, Robert Schwartz. My address is 2355 Pass Road, Biloxi, Mississippi 39531. I represent the Sands at Front Beach LLC. We're here supporting the proposed amendment to the Unified Development Code. We believe that this addition of the PUD plan and also the other amendments that are proposed would allow the city an easier process for developers to utilize so that we are not required to make multiple stops at different locations. Ultimately, the ability to approve or disapprove the matter will not be changed because we have to come before this board for your recommendation, and then ultimately anything that is approved or sought to be approved would ultimately go to the Board of Aldermen. So it does not change the general process, which has been utilized before, but simply gives some updated concepts to the city, which frankly, we believe Ocean Springs has been in need of for some time. There are similar PUD options available with other municipalities that I do work with, and other counties have the same options, which have proven to be helpful for both the city and or county and developers. So we're here specifically requesting your approval of that. I'm sure that you'll hear opposition related to this particular matter, but to be clear, there's nothing for the Sands project that's pending tonight. These are simply amendments to your current Unified Development Code. So I would ask that you temper any comments that you hear, because there's nothing pending related to our project. And we would be in favor of this regardless of our project, because the city needs these changes to be more flexible in the future for any development. So we would ask that you approve the same.
Perfect, thank you, Robert. All right, one other thing I forgot to say as far as the time constraint, if anybody in the audience agrees with somebody else, they're welcome to say, I agree. For instance, I agree with Robert and would like to add, and then that way you don't have to repeat the same thing and make the most use out of your time. Anybody else in favor of and support of this ordinance change want to speak at the microphone?
I'm good, I agree with Robert.
Can you do your name and address for the record, Mike?
Mike Butler, 715 Plantation Highway Boulevard, Biloxi, Mississippi, 39532.
You got that, man? Okay. All right, so Mike Butler goes on record just saying agree with Robert. All right, anybody else in the audience want to speak in favor of? Once, twice, so. Anybody in the audience want to speak in opposition to the ordinance to add the PUD? Name and address at the microphone, please, Mr. Geis. Spoiler alert.
William Lee Geis III, law firm Rushing Geis, Ocean Springs, Mississippi, 1000 Government Street, Ocean Springs, Mississippi. Telephone 228-374-2313. I represent a group of neighbors surrounding the Sands project. I fully realize that what we have before you is not the Sands project. But I must advise that I was given notice of this by a letter that referenced the Sands, kindly by the city attorney. And when I received notice of a potential event that could affect my client's interest, we must be here. There are, I think, two things that are coming before this board tonight. The first is the PUD issue. The second will be a zoning change for a different waterfront district. We must look at those together in deciding what we're going to do. The PUD district will create an ability to manipulate and change matters within a zoning district. Now, we saw the pretty comparisons of a traditional subdivision to a PUD. All of that is accomplished within a traditional subdivision. That is not unique. Not everything has to be square streets. In fact, I'll tell you, most of them are not. But what is going to happen, and the potential we have before us, is to create a waterfront district that is in a velocity zone. If you combine the PUD concept with a waterfront district, you have the ability to put in more dense housing in a velocity zone. Part of what has been the discussions to date have been life safety issues. I'm going to submit to you that if you were to pass the PUD and the waterfront district as proposed, you're going to create a area that will endanger those within it. Now, think about this. In a PUD, you can manipulate your lot sizes and configuration of the lot. You put that, use your PUD with a district that allows higher density, for example, a district that allows 20-foot wide lots as is proposed, you are combining people together in a danger zone. Part of the discussions to date have been ingress and egress from the particular project. This will, I think, destroy the principles that we have looked forward in trying to reach a resolution. I think this commission must think about the use of a PUD in an area that is limited to not only high velocity, not only potentially flooding, but is one that would be a face of Ocean Springs. The PUD is while it is a useful tool in many cases, as Robert had indicated, it is not a proper tool, I think, for the beachfront areas of Ocean Springs. And so the use of a PUD should be restricted from those development areas. Overall, I think this is misguided. The process we have right now works if we go through the process in a normal fashion. I've done PUDs. I've worked with PUDs. They're great in an industrial complex. They're great in a unusual circumstance where we want to produce an environmentally correct project. I would submit to you that PUD as applied to the beachfront here is not an environmentally correct project. As an environmentally dangerous project, both in life safety issues, but also in the use of watershed and how that project will be used from an overall drainage standpoint. I believe you're looking for more trouble than you can gain. Now, I do not want to use a full 10 minutes. It's against my policy to overstay my welcome. And so I thank you and ask you to consider this carefully, and we consider our opposition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Geis. All right, anybody else in opposition to this ordinance for the PUD? This will be the item 4A on your agenda. Name and address at the microphone, please.
Mike DeLon, address is 303 Front Beach Drive in Ocean Springs. I agree with what Billy said. I would just like to add, you already have available to you the R1A zoning district definition. And I know some of you have been here a while, others maybe not so long, but the R1A was actually put in place right after Katrina. And it was designed, and we've had this conversation before, it was designed to accommodate spacing between buildings more appropriate than what you're going to see before you with this R6 definition, 2,000 square foot lots, 20-foot wide yards. The R1A is specifically written, again, after Katrina, to accommodate building spacing for select areas of Ocean Springs, including waterfront. So, you know, right now, you can hardly write a wind insurance policy for waterfront property on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Excess flood insurance in a velocity zone or a coastal A flood zone has probably tripled in the last few years. So I think, as Billy said, HUDs have their place, but waterfront, bayfront, and velocity and flood zone to accommodate dense, closely spaced buildings is not a place in this day and age that any of us should be going in a coastal community. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mike. And I apologize. I told everybody to shut off their phones, and I'm the one that gets it a beat. I didn't shut off my phone, and I apologize. All right. Anybody else in opposition to the ordinance as presented?
Scott Edwards.
Name and address, please, at the microphone. Or you? Yeah, go ahead.
Scott Edwards, 409 Wolf Drive, Ocean Springs, 228-872-4081. Go on record as agreeing with Mr. Geis and Michael Gleason.
Manny, you got that on the, okay, good. All right, anybody else in opposition to the ordinance as presented? Once, twice, so. Anybody want to speak in opposition, in favor, or any other way? All right, motion to close public hearing. Motion Kevin, second. Marshall, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are out of public hearing. Do I have any questions, comments for staff or anybody from the commissioners? No? All right. Does anybody want to entertain a motion? Introduce a motion.
I make a motion to recommend approval of the amendment to Chapter 2, Section 2.24 through the 2.27 of the United Development Code to include provisions for planned unit developments for the reasons described and detailed in the staff report.
Okay, I'm going to have a motion by Joey to accept as presented, correct? Just to make sure I understood. Accept as in the ordinance. Okay, I got a second by Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that will be unanimous on item 4A. So now let's jump down. Y'all will excuse me for my spot. All right. Item 4B is going to be an amendment to the UDC for the City of Ocean Springs, Mississippi, amending the following chapter, Chapter 3, zoning districts, buildings, types, and uses to establish an R6 waterfront residential zoning district and to amend other miscellaneous sections as necessary to incorporate the R6 zoning district. Do I have a motion to go into public? So moved. Motion Matthew, second. Second by Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are in a public hearing. I'll see Wade again.
That's correct. Madam, would you go to the PowerPoint for R6, please? Thank you. Okay. It said this is the amendment to create an R6 waterfront residential district, zoning district that is. As noted in the report, and this would be set out in the ordinance, the purpose of this is for medium density single-family dwellings. I emphasize that, single-family dwellings at a medium density. It can be used for smaller lot sizes, infill development situations, with a density, overall gross density, of 6 to 7 dwelling units per acre. Actually, the maximum is 6 dwelling units per acre. And the idea behind it is that it would be for waterfront properties on the bay or bayou to take advantage of the view and the vista from that location. But it is available to any part of the city should the situation arise, and should the traditional, usual zoning district change requirements be appropriate to that location. This kind of shows you some of the minimum requirements of the district, and that the minimum lot area is small at 2,000 square feet, but that is to be able to take advantage of unique property situations to deal with those type of narrow lot, infill type developments that you typically find in urban areas. Lot width 20 feet, again, for that same spacing. But the other requirements, typically typical building height, 35 feet. That's typical to most single-family districts. And the, again, reduced setbacks. These are, as I said, setbacks from the property lines of 5 feet on the front. This allows for, again, more infill development where you take advantage of smaller streets in situations like that. This does not deal with the perimeter buffering around the property or the overall landscaping. And that pretty well summarizes the characteristics of that proposed R6 district. Just would point out that to give you some sense of how it fits into districts and lot sizes, that 6 unit per acre density equates to overall a lot size of somewhere in the range of 5,500 up to around 6,000 square feet per lot. That really would depend on, that's the overall density. I want to emphasize that. That also obviously depends on the arrangement of the subdivision or PUD as it may be in reality. I think that summarizes, clears up what I had to say. I'd be glad to answer questions. Thank you.
Wait, just on that same note, so just make sure I understand what you're saying. So the minimum lot area for one lot is 2,000, but because we only allow 6 per acre, the remaining 3,500 or whatever, 4,000 in your example would just be open space, right away,
open space, common area,
something like that.
Water, natural parks, natural areas.
You couldn't have like a gridded out 2,000 square foot lot. And then, did I read this right? It says that of that density, we don't even get to count wetlands, right?
That is correct.
So
that's
that
correct.
would be in addition to if there was wetlands or.
Yeah, that's a standard requirement in our subdivision regulations, that wetlands.
I know we had applied it to other districts.
Right.
I was making sure it
Yes.
was. Okay. And then my other question, just for the record, more than anything, like we are not rezoning any property, we are creating a zoning district. And any property that would come to us would want to meet this would have to come to us.
Exactly.
No zoning map change.
This simply sets the framework for it. It does not rezone any piece of property.
Perfect. Thank you. Anything else for Wade? No? All right, we are in a public hearing. Does anybody want to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance? Name and address, if you don't mind being redundant for us.
Sure. Robert Schwartz, 2355 Pass Road, Biloxi, Mississippi, 39531. We'd like to speak, or I'd like to speak on behalf of the proposed amendment. As you just mentioned a moment ago, Andy, the proposed amendment doesn't rezone any property. It doesn't have anything to do with any particular project. It simply gives additional zoning opportunities and classifications for the city, which your Uniform Development Code recognizes the need for amendments to add and change classifications for uses of properties. So this proposed amendment is in conformity with the general plan of the UDC, and again, would require any applicant coming before this body to prove the necessary elements to request a zoning change should you adopt it. So I'm sure that council opposite will have opposition related to it, but again, it has nothing to do with the Sands project or anything else. And I'd ask you to simply limit your review of this to the issues before you, which is whether this additional zoning classification is a good idea for the city of Ocean Springs. And I'd further be happy to answer any questions if there were any.
I got anything for Robert? All right, thank you. Anybody else in favor of, in support of the ordinance to add the R6 zone?
I'm in support of it.
You still got his name and address, Mike Butler, and whatever he said earlier? Okay, thank you. Anybody else in support of? Once twice sold. All right, anybody in opposition to the R6 zoning ordinance? You don't mind, Mr. Geis, name and address again? Yes, sir. Say we did.
I will adopt the arguments I made earlier, as I spoke on occasion to the R6 district. More density That's what Ocean Springs needs, is more density. As a council for the neighbors, but also as a resident of Ocean Springs, you're going to lose the city's charm. You're going to make things that you don't want to happen. And in 5 years or 7 years, each of you are going to look back and say, why the hell did I do that? And I won't have an answer for you. Maybe you'll have an answer for yourself. But more density and amending the code to allow more density is not your answer. Putting more people into a smaller place is not your answer. The chart that I was given, everybody says it says 6 or 7 lots per acre. And a project that I am familiar with near here, that would calculate to be 39 lots. That's not what you want to do. You know, progress is moving forward with caution. Progress is thinking about where you want the city to be. And just because the Planning Commission, planners, pulled off the shelf a type of zoning district from somewhere else doesn't mean it should be in Ocean Springs. You don't want this. You don't want 2,000 square foot lots. You know, they allow a 20-foot wide lot. Ocean Springs was originally built with about 50-foot lots, and now they don't want you to have that. So you go to build in an older section, you have trouble getting things to fit the lots as they are now. And you're willing to make them smaller? That doesn't make any sense. This whole proposal of the R6 just doesn't make any sense. And you're going to put, this is for a waterfront and bayou-front area, so you're going to put more density near areas that flood. You're going to put more houses that are going to be built on sticks and look like a matchbook city. It's going to look like that area down in South Florida where they built the little shacks out over the water. Is that what we're asking for? You know, I have all these ideas about things that would help Ocean Springs, and I'm always hesitant to bring them forward. But maybe they're sometimes too progressive, sometimes too regressive. This one is not what we should be doing. This will not benefit Ocean Springs. Whether you want to help my clients or hurt my clients, that doesn't matter with this one. This one is one that should not happen. And I promise you, you're going to regret adopting a 2,000 square foot lot with a 20-foot width and think you're going to make Ocean Springs better. Thank you.
Mr. Geis?
Sir.
No, I said thank you. All right, anybody else in opposition to? Name and address at the microphone, please. Oh.
Thank you, Andy. Mike Gallant, 303 Rock Beach Drive. When Julie and I moved back home after being away for more than 30 years, we chose to build in Ocean Springs because of an image and a memory of what this city was like, not just what it looked like, but what the culture was. We chose to build, R1 single family district on Front Beach Drive in Ocean Springs on a beach that was non-commercial. That's what makes Ocean Springs Beach what it is. That's why it's attractive to young families, moms with their children. That's what you mostly see at Front Beach and Ocean Springs. Since we've been back, we've seen a lot of different trials, I guess, flags. We've had honeymoon beds, you know, had developers that want to build quasi-commercial developments targeted at investors that want to purchase short-term rental properties. It's not what we remember. It's not what we or our neighbors that rebuilt after Katrina. Some of them are here tonight signed up for. So what you're seeing is, you know, some new folks come in. Some that are here tonight. I got nothing against new blood. That helps. But it's not what we signed up for. It's not where we want to live. It's not what the people that rent the golf carts that come to Ocean Springs to tour. They don't rent those golf carts to ride around looking for a putt to drive through, or a R6 development with 2,000 square foot lots with box buildings 5 feet apart. It's not what they come here for. They come before what we remember, where we live now. So I just support what Billy's saying. You know, if you remember what we've lost in this city, think very carefully about where you want to take us. All right? Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Anybody else in opposition to? Name and address, please.
Scott Edwards, 409 Wolf Drive, Ocean Springs, Mississippi. A question. What do we define waterfront as? I'm curious as to how waterfront is defined in this situation. Because that, you know, waterfront is certainly the obvious, you know, a lot on the water. But does it extend beyond what that is?
Wade, do you want to answer that one?
I mean, it is not specifically defined in the ordinance. Because for one thing, like I said, the R6 district is not required to be on waterfront. Had that been the case, it would have had a definition in there, a distance. But it's the district's intended for that. It can be there, and that is up to you and the Board of Aldermen when you consider a rezoning, if one happens. What do you consider as waterfront? I mean, one could look at just the standard dictionary definition of it to see what it has. It's be property that has access or direct frontage on a body of water. But there's, as far as a specific, no, there's not one.
So then that could go on to say that a whole block of property could be rezoned in this same fashion, such that the density could be applied throughout, not just waterfront area, but the entirety of the property. Is that what I'm understanding you to say? Because this is not just limited to waterfront.
Well, it'd be kind of hard to get into is talk about hypothetical situations of what is.
Well, let's hypothetically say, let's define waterfront. Let's define waterfront as to what waterfront is, because this is ambiguous in what I'm seeing you having.
Sir, he answered your question on waterfront.
No, sir, he didn't. No, he was unable to answer my question.
He answered your question on waterfront.
Thank you for your input. I am. I'm just trying to get a definition. I think it needs to be clarified in this before we move forward with what this is. I mean, it will impact down the road what we're trying to look at. So it's not a difficult something, I think, for you all to look at and to overcome. So, you know, I'm not in favor of anything that is greater density in the city of Ocean Springs. I've been here my entire life. And so I've got property in Ocean Springs besides where I live. And everything's been on a bigger footprint of what that is. And I see the small stuff that's coming in and how it's changed the image and what downtown Ocean Springs and what the areas of Ocean Springs were. And I can appreciate the fact that you want to get the best use of your property, but it's just not in keeping with what Ocean Springs has been. You know, I'm fourth generation here, so I understand, what the longevity of this is and what this means. So consider that when you vote on this, and take into consideration that it's not just something that we're going to be dealing with today, but it will be the future of what Ocean Springs will become. Thank you. I appreciate your input as well.
Thank you, Pastor. All right, Julie, I think I keep seeing your hand. Did you want to speak?
Think about it.
Name and address at the microphone if you want to.
No, I'm good. I'm just agree with everything you're saying.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak in opposition to? I'll get you next, ma'am.
Alex Gresham, 526 Cleveland Avenue, Ocean Springs, Mississippi. Just based off everything that I've heard, I cannot support this kind of density based off living in my property for 13 years. I don't see having this kind of density on what is being proposed, so I'm not in favor of it. Thank you.
All right, ma'am, you have your hand. Name and address at the microphone, please.
Joanna Shavrin, 414 Martin Avenue.
Do it. You good, Amanda? Sorry, the microphone pick it up for the recording.
Okay.
She's good. Go ahead. You can start talking. What was your name again? I'm sorry.
Joanna Shavrin.
Okay.
I would like to point out that I've noticed that it seems like everybody here tonight that is in opposition of this actually lives in Ocean Springs, and the ones who are for it don't. This is my second time living in Ocean Springs. My husband's in the Air Force. We came back 3 years ago after being gone for about 8 years. And I've already seen so much change, it seems like, from the first time to now the second time that I'm here. I'm not against development in Ocean Springs. I'm not against having more people come here. I enjoy chatting with some of the Airbnb people that stay at the Airbnb down my street that walk by. I like having, people visit here, but I agree with what everybody else who has spoken tonight against it says against the density. I don't want to lose what we have and turn into just a vacation destination. I want to keep our city's charm and like Mike said, people come here to take the golf cart tours to see Ocean Springs for what it is, and not for, cookie cutter developments that, and I didn't even think about the safety issue that he spoke of earlier with the density. I know my house was one of the last ones standing on Martin after Katrina, and the damage that it did take, it was from the other houses being blown or swept into it that were destroyed all around it. I would be worried to see what happened, if we increase the density around where we all live with the debris from another crazy big storm. So that's all I have to say. Like I said, not against development, just against increasing the density. So.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Joanna. All right, anybody else in opposition to?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and speak. I just have a question. So my question, Julie Alon, 303 Front Beach Drive. I just have a question. Why do we need this new high-density development?
Wade, do you want to answer that?
Who is it for and why do we need it?
So I could say, in my experience, pocket neighborhoods are becoming a big deal. The millennial crowd, I can't remember the one after them, and also the boomer crowd are looking for smaller lots. I think the
We need
nationwide
that
trend.
small lots. Don't we have other ordinances that offer smaller lots?
I think the nationwide trend is density, and this one with the dwelling units as it's set up per acre being a lot smaller than the lots does create the extra common area space that people are looking for. It gives you the feeling of the yard.
So where are we gonna put these little pocket communities within our nice neighborhoods?
It would have to be rezoned. There'd be a public hearing for everyone. It'd be treated just the same as a rezone.
Are you even gonna be able to rezone a piece of property that's right in the middle of a traditional housing? I just don't even think we need this zone. I think we have enough small zones. We have RD. You don't need to be putting these little bitty lots on an acre or two of, that used to be a larger house. You could make it RD and put, whatever 8 to 10,000 square foot lots. Anyway, that's all I got to say.
To add on to what you had said, Andy, one of the driving things behind this R6 district is to fill in the gap between the RD, R3 districts and the RM2 district. Is that, there's that big of a gap in between those two in terms of density, but it still does call for single family.
On that note, let me go, But this is significantly less than RM2.
Correct, it is. But it's a little bit more than R3.
Sorry, just to clarify for the audience, wait, there's what? It's significantly less max gross dwelling unit density.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know you knew what I was
I'm sorry.
for the record. So, like the RM2, if we went to that, would allow 21 units per acre, which would be more of a, gridded, just lot on top of each other versus.
Exactly.
And that one, I don't even have a minimum lot size. So I think this is more in favor of the, more traditional layout. Anybody else have anything in opposition to? Anybody have anything either in favor or opposition to before we close public hearing?
Motion to close public hearing?
Motion Kevin, second Marshall. Yes. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Do you have any questions, comments from the commissioners?
Got a few comments.
We're in a lot of space to write.
Yeah, so the PUD amendment I was for, because I like the flexibility it provides the planning commission, the planning department, to kind of take a concept as a whole and make exceptions as needed, kind of in a one fell swoop type of process. The R6 provides flexibility as well. As was stated, there are no R6 zones right now. Nothing is on the slate to become R6. Nobody has made a proposal to be R6. It doesn't exist yet. And as I am in favor of flexibility, I'm not opposed to having an R6 district, but I will say you're going to have a real good reason for anyone to actually do an R6 district. And I do have concerns about it. I do have concerns about density, as I've said in the past. So, Andy, I will be abstaining on this vote.
Any other questions or comments?
Just a quick question.
Okay.
When they were talking about the waterfront, because this thing is billed as R6 waterfront residential district. If someone got some property on Highway 90, could they do an R6 on Highway 90?
They would have to come to the board to get it approved. I mean, in theory, yes.
So it's theoretical, it's not near any water.
Change requirements, change the neighborhood, public need, so forth. But that's something that y'all and the board could consider. But again, that's just would be one more of the criteria, one more of the factor to throw in the mix.
I was just curious because we just call it a waterfront residential district. Thank you.
Anybody else? I got one thing. Wait, real quick. It does say in the base zoning districts the density of 6 to 7, and then in the actual chart that allows it, it says 6.
Yeah.
Is there any reason to leave the 2, 7 in there?
No.
We just kind of even it out and just make the base zoning say a density of 6 dwelling units per acre?
Absolutely.
Just for a little extra consistency. Mm-hmm. All right, anybody else got any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts? If not, do I have a motion? And if you do make a motion in favor, go ahead and please include with the change of dropping it from the 6 to 7. And if it's in opposition, that won't matter. If you agree with the 6 to 7, I should say.
I make a motion to recommend approval of the following amendment and ordinance related to the creation of an R6 waterfront residential district and Unified Development Code for the reasons described in detail in the staff report, and making it more consistent by adding the 6 point. Just the 6.
Yeah, dropping the 2
Dropping
to
the 6.
7 in the base zone, correct? All right, I have a motion by Joey to accept as presented with the cleaning up of the 6 dwelling units being consistent. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
So, all right, let's do a real quick roll call just for good. Matthew? Aye.
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 Abstain.
Opposed?
Opposed?
All right, so we're going to have, that'll be carried 3 to 2 with 1 abstention. Count that right?
I guess.
1, 2, 3.
Should we take a roll call? Can we take this thing?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Just trying to figure out the vote here. So we got 3 for, 2 opposed, 1 abstain. We got that's got to be a majority of the quorum.
The chair can vote.
The tie.
I'm just questioning, can he abstain? I've never heard of anyone abstaining from a vote.
Well, we've had abstentions before. I thought an abstention with the majority there.
Yeah, I think that is the case, actually. So
4 ayes, 2 noes.
So that would make it 4.
Well, that would be
4
correct.
seconds.
The abstention goes with. Thank you.
yeah, so that's 4 to 2.
We good? All right. All right, well, that's all we had. General public comment. Anybody want to talk anything off agenda items? Commissioner forum, any thoughts, comments from the commission? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second Matthew, second Kevin, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
That's your last opportunity to give Amanda her time.
Yeah. Commissioner forum, good job, Amanda, good luck.